main character is Eddie Mannix, who is what's his title? The head of physical production at Capitol Pictures. But the pithier way to put it is that he's a fixer. He gets in his hands in all kinds of business. He is fixing all sorts of emergencies that come up as all these different movies are being shot on the studio lots and on location. Anything from making quick decisions when there's bad weather on location in New Mexico, or when there's personal problems that the movie stars. One of them disappears, he goes out on a fling or on a bender, or there's something that needs to be covered up for the sake of the image of the star or the studio. So he's doing all sorts of things, and he's moving through all of these different sets, and that's why we get the opportunity to see all these different genres paid tribute to by the Coen brothers. But he's also a sincere Catholic, which is where this film begins.
Right.
We start out with a shot of a crucifix, actually.
Yeah.
And then he's in the confessional, and we get one of many somewhat comical confession scenes. What does he say? It's been a day since his last confession.
Yeah.
He's confessing that he snuck a cigarette when he told his wife he wouldn't. He told a fib to his wife about not having smoked. Things like that. And then, of course, what do we see him do but go tell a bunch of fibs under pressure, granted, to protect people's reputation, granted. But he does tell quite a few fibs in this movie, and he does smoke quite a few cigarettes. So we've got this guy who's a sincere Catholic, plainly trying to do better, but also under a tremendous amount of pressure, and in sort of an absurd situation where the value of what he's doing, which is getting, movie stars out of their stupid problems, is sometimes questionable even to him.
Right.
Trevor, you said that you thought the Catholic element of this film was inseparable from the enjoyment of it, and I presume you mean more than just those specific scenes, which are sort of explicitly Catholic in their subject matter.
Yes, there is a humorous treatment of the confessional, which I think is delightful. But I was thinking more about the way that art and spirituality are intertwined in the movie, and the way that Eddie Mannix, in striving to, I guess the term he uses is serve the picture. In other words, do all of the behind-the-scenes dirty work that's necessary for these films to get made, these films that give people a lot of happiness. As he's doing this, he's also, he spends really the whole film sort of thinking through his vocation and trying to discern the will of God. And so every one of these amusing scenes, whether it's the water ballet or the hopelessly miscast Hobie Doyle struggling to say his lines in the Comedy of Manners that he's been transferred into, every single one of these scenes sort of is like a moment, or even a sort of a projection of what's going on in Mannix's mind as he tries to figure out, is this really what I should be doing? Or, and this is sort of another key plot point in addition to the kidnapping plot line, which I think maybe you already alluded to, in which the star of the Sword and Sandals epic is whisked away, and there's a ransom note and so forth. That's sort of the inciting incident. But the deeper question I think that the film's trying to answer is, as you were alluding to earlier, just now, Thomas, is what Mannix is doing worthwhile, and should he take this job that he's been offered by a representative of the military-industrial complex, the Lockheed Corporation?
Right.
So there's a whole debate about whether art is valuable, and it's connected to the question of whether it's God's will for Mannix to keep doing what he's doing.
Right. And Mannix, who I meant to say before, is played by Josh Brolin. It's interesting that they chose a character who's not even an artist to be the protagonist in this question.
Right.
He's the person who might be portrayed as, a big bad boss in another movie, right?
Yeah.
Or somebody who doesn't really get it.
Yeah.
And we see a real pragmatism in his approach to artistic questions. Okay, it's raining down there. Let's change the title. Pitch that to the writers. But but he's plainly someone who does see what he's doing as important. He does see the art as important, and he sees the at least in the way that, you know, the best of the golden age of Hollywood did. He sees the uplift of the American people as important, which is also, aside from, you know, financial and capitalist reasons, one of the reasons why he keeps having to run around making sure that his stars don't behave in a disreputable manner, at least for the public eye.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that he's a producer, and producers kind of straddle this divide between the business side of the entertainment industry and the artistic side, because he oftentimes is making decisions that have artistic implications.
Right.
And to be a successful producer at that level, you have to have an artistic knack, if not just, you know, straight up being an artist yourself. But he, you know, you can see that he possesses that quality or that sympathy in several instances where he's having to deal with artists. You know, like when the director comes barging into his office saying that he can't work with this actor, the director being played by Ralph Fiennes, very humorously. So, you know, he encourages the director, you know, in the direction of what ultimately is a successful casting choice. You know, like we see a shot of the dailies from that day, and, you know, having been dealt a really difficult hand in casting this sort of low level Western actor in this
drawing room drama.
Yeah. The solution, actually, it ends up working out, you know, or at least it seems to. And so I think that, like, it's an interesting choice to have the producer be the protagonist here, because this other plot arc, this other subplot that we're following has to do with communist infiltration in the industry, you know, and there's this sort of, this bemoaning the studio system. And this is from the mouths of these communist writers, you know, who are upset that they haven't gotten seen the profits of their work. They're disgruntled, and there's a, you know, couched in that is a criticism of the industry, of the film industry, of Hollywood at that time, of Josh Brolin's character, of Eddie Mannix himself and what he represents, you know? So I think that it's interesting because the Coen brothers are able to kind of have their cake and eat it too. They're able to kind of cover both sides of this question.
And then maybe the other point is, and this is a point that Joel and Ethan Coen have addressed in some of the interviews that they did about the movie, is that the film actually has a kind of theology to it. And that Skank, the head, who's never seen, right? He's just somebody who calls on the phone. He's the head of the studio, is like the father. And then Brolin's character, Mannix, is like the son who's doing the dirty work. And so the fixer, the head of what is, you've got the physical production. It's almost like a statement about the incarnation. I mean, this guy's he's in the thick of it, getting his hands dirty, and so he really is. You know, it's so appropriate that he would.
Yeah, I often thought about that while I was watching the film. That he was kind of a guardian angel, and also, you know, advocate, and you know, shielding his talent from certain people that would prey upon them, you know, and getting them out of sticky situations, and not hesitating, even correcting when necessary. You know, it's kind of this incredible moment toward the end of the film where what's his name, Baird Whitlock, the character that's played by George Clooney, comes back kind of spouting this commie nonsense, and Eddie Mannix just, you know, gets up, crosses the room, and just like slaps him silly, just slaps some sense into him. And it's almost, I don't know, you know, it's the kind of no nonsense tough love that you wish would be doled out to more of these Hollywood blowhards, you know. You know, I think back to like when Ricky Gervais hosted the Golden Globes and just how sweet that was. I don't know if you recall this. Yeah. And there's something of that here. This sort of like what are you talking about? Like, go be a movie star, make these incredible films, and like get back to work.
Yeah. And he tells him, the picture has worth. You're going to do this because the picture has worth, and you have worth if you serve the picture. And it's also about the fact that he badmouthed the studio and he badmouthed Mr. Skank, but ultimately it's about the fact that the picture has worth and you have worth if you serve the picture. So I think that in the end, the movie does not present us with a cynical view of Baird Whitlock's job, that ultimately it is in service of the picture.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's in service of the human beings who are making the picture by getting them to submit themselves to something bigger than themselves, at the very least.
Right. Yeah, and I think that there's something like fundamentally religious about that. There's like an analogy that can be drawn, that there's something, like very fatherly in that organization. Even if it is something that's reducible to the bottom line or to what benefits the studio or what benefits the picture. I think that like that's the space that the Coen brothers want us to be thinking. These sort of this network of like messy relationships and coordinations and all of that. There's something divine about what the producer is doing there.
Just the discernment at the center of the film, and the way that somehow Mannix seems to feel that he's discerned the will of God at the end of the film, and that he wants to keep doing what he's doing, and he does this through the confessional. I mean, it's just very striking. It seems to me like one of the best Catholic films out there, but I don't think it's going to be on the Vatican film list anytime soon.
Yeah, because it's interesting in that last confessional scene, he after he says his confession, he asks the father, can I ask you a question? How does he put it? He's talking about something easy.
Yeah.
And not that it's a bad job, but is it wrong that it's easy?
Yeah.
And there's this other job that's hard. It's really hard.
But it seems right.
But like, right. It's there's something like really fundamental in that moral calculus, Yeah.
And I think what happens, because we don't see him saying, I'm going to do this job differently from now on. I'm going to do it better in a way that, serves my family better, or I'm going to be more genuinely concerned about the well-being of the actors. But I think that maybe in some ways this character lacks confidence in the way that he makes his confessions, in the sort of like self-flagellating way that he makes these frequent confessions at the beginning of the film and at the end. He's doing the same things over and over, peccadillos we might call them, but he takes them seriously. And I think that this confidence in his vocation probably allows him to move forward with greater confidence in God's grace, helping him to do it well as well. I mean, we even get a sense that right after that final confession scene, he runs out. The priest isn't even done talking yet. He's like, I got it. Okay. And then we see him right back in the swing of things, but there seems to be like a relaxation and confidence with which he dispatches his business in that next scene.
Right.
Which I think it doesn't really make it explicit a lot about this discernment, but my sense is that it's going to help him. Just being confident that he's where God has put him and where God wants him to be is going to help him improve the way that he does it. Yeah. In a more sort of like confident manner. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, there's some connection between that and the word that George Clooney's character can't remember. I mean, in the sense that it's sort of like the word the actor forgot becomes the cornerstone or something like that. But he's got a renewed sense of faith in maybe in himself too, really. Which is there's a limit to that, but it does seem to be salutary.